In today's video, we're going to have a very brief overview of another Ionz case, and this is the KZ-30M, and this is a very quiet case. Okay, so we've actually already taken it out of the box because taking things out of the box is kind of boring, so we're just going to move this out of the way. And here it is. This is the KZ-30M, and as we just look around the case as we always do, as I said, it's going to be a very brief overview. We'll start at the front. Not much to see. This is a completely glassless case, no windows, no nothing. You can't see anything that's inside the case, which is not a bad thing if you don't need to see inside your case. But on the front, we have a power button, a headphone and microphone jack, a USB-C port, which is really great to see, and a USB 3.0 port. As we turn the case around, you'll see very, very quickly that there, as I've already said, there are no side panels, so there is not much to see here. It's just a side panel, and we'll get to the top bit in a moment. On the back, you can see there we've got a fan, 120mm fan there. Not a fan, there's no fans in this one, I don't think. So you will need to put one in this one. You can get this case with fans in, and I'll put the links down in the description down below. This one doesn't have any fans because I've got fans to put in it already, but that is where your rear exhaust fan would go. Obvious, that one. We've got 4 PCIe slots down the bottom there, same as the other one did. So it's very, very similar in that respect. And then obviously your motherboard IO ports will go there. Again, with this one, the power connector plugs in there, or the kettle lead will plug in there, and that will go inside to where the power supply will go. And again, this one takes a full ATX power supply. Moving it around to the left side where the cables will be hidden, you won't see anything, so you don't actually need to worry about your cabling management too much in this case. Obviously don't block fans because that will be bad. Now we tip this down and you can look at the top, and it's got a vented slots there, and these are where your main kind of intake fans will go if you want to use intake, or you can put fans on the bottom. We'll show you that in a minute when we open it up. Now this one is kind of different in that you can't just take the side panels off. You have to remove the top first. So we are going to go ahead and do that using these 2 thumb screws on the back. And then what should happen, I'm going to need a screwdriver for that one. What should happen is the top panel should slide off and then allow us access to the side panels. So that should just slide backwards like that, and then we just lift that off. And it has a dust filter on there, you can see that, and it looks like it is not removable. It looks like that has actually been glued on. So if you're using that as a intake, then obviously that you want to keep that on. If you're using it as a exhaust, then you will probably want to remove those. They are very fine holes in that. I don't know how much airflow that will let through, but just bear that in mind. If you're using it as an exhaust, probably best to take that off. So as we tilt that down there, this is the top of the case now. You can see that you can mount either 2 120mm fans there, or possibly even a AIO cooler on the top there. So a 240 radiator to go on the top there. And then this space, this large opening here, is where your power supply would mount, very similar to the other Ionz case that we looked at the front of the case. And the power lead, as I said already, will plug into the top of the power supply using that connector that's built in. Now to take the side panels off, it's not just a case of lifting that off. There are actually 2 screws to be able to get to the side panels. So let's go ahead and remove those. Okay, so we transitioned over to electric screwdriver because it was taking too long to do it by hand. And we've got all the screws lifted off, unscrewed, and we should be able to just lift the side panel off, push it from the bottom of the case, just lift it up slightly and pull it away. Now, if we turn this around before we get in the case, you will see that it has silent. It's called silent because it has this noise dampening kind of material on the inside. How effective that is, I don't know. The only way to test that would be to also take it off and then put it back on and see the difference. Okay, so that is that side panel off, and we can see there, this is the kind of the side you would normally see if it had a window on it, but obviously there's no side panel on it with a window. So we've got space for what looks like 3 120mm fans, potentially, no, two 120mm fans on the bottom. And again, it has a filter on the bottom. So if it's intake on the bottom and you're going for intake at the bottom, exhaust on top, you definitely want to remove that filter from the top. You might want to leave this one on if you're using this as intake. Generally, hot air rises, so it's best to go from bottom to top. So looking at the front panel I/O connectors on the inside of the case, a little bit interesting here, a little bit confused as well. We've got a USB 3.0 connector there, the very difficult to remove USB 3.0 connector. And then we've got the front panel header, front panel button connector, power LED, all those kind of things, hard drive LED. And then we've got HD audio. The one thing I'm not seeing is the USB-C front panel header connector. I don't see it. Yeah, it's definitely there, and I can see it on the front of the case, and there is definitely a cable connected to it. But it looks like to me, it doesn't actually use a standard USB-C header. So the one we've got on the motherboard that this is going to be built with, we won't need it because it looks like it all just piggybacks off the USB 3.0 connector for also the USB-C connector, which is fine, that's okay. But I would have expected that to go directly into a USB-C header on a motherboard and not do it that way. Very interesting choice. We have a bag of accessories, some Velcro ties, some screws to mount your motherboard onto the back panel there, and some actual cable ties in there as well, and some rubber grommets, I assume for a mechanical style hard drive, but this will not be being used in that's for sure. So that's good. It's got a few little extras in there that you might possibly need. So they've gone with an interesting design here. This kind of reminisces about old style cases where the drive cage was in the front of the case, and then you connect them all and they'd either going that way, slot in that way like that. They're really big old style hard drives. If I had one, I would show you what it looks like. Really big, noisy, clunky drives before SSDs were a thing. This one takes 2 SSDs. I'm not sure if it's on this side or the other side. Maybe it doesn't matter because there is quite a lot of room. And then you've got, so 2.5-inch drive would go there, SSDs, standard ones. And then you've got space for the power cable and data cable there, which is actually quite nice because it means you can maybe have them on this side, not that you're going to see them, and then hide the cables out of the way that way. Also bearing in mind that the power supply, as we already said, is also along here. So there's not going to be a lot of space for cables when you're mounting your power supply. Now this does take a full ATX power supply, as we've already said. But using that bigger power supply will mean you've got less space for cables. But again, it's a thing of, it's got no window. Does it really matter where your cables go as long as they're not blocking any fans? On the motherboard panel there, it doesn't actually look like it comes out at all. Although it does look like no, that's a rivet. So there are 6 standoffs already on the motherboard. I don't think they actually come off. I could be wrong. And then there are another 2 for slightly wider micro ATX boards on the motherboard panel at the back there. So this side where the cables normally go, you've got another panel with noise dampening material on the side there. And as we look on this side, you can see the front panel connectors there. The motherboard tray is really, really close up against this side panel, so there's not really a lot of room to put your cables here. So they really are going to have to go inside the case. Again, it's a case with no windows. Does it really matter? You're not going to see them. You've got another space here for an SSD, and it looks like that is also for a hard drive. I actually don't think you can mount a hard drive there. I don't think it's big enough, but it's got rubber grommets there if you want to use that, or maybe a 2.5-inch spinning drive if you don't want the vibrations affecting the rest of the case, because after all, it's marketed as a silent case. One thing that is quite nice actually is the motherboard is going to obviously mount here. There's this big space here, so you can fit various different types of coolers on there with different brackets on the back side of the motherboard. We've got this little space at the top here where the power connector for the kettle lead will have to run through, because obviously the power supply is inside the case. And I imagine here you can route your power cables, your CPU supplementary power connector along here. There's quite a lot of space here for that as well, and possibly some fan cables and other things in this gap at the top. That's quite a good amount of space there. You've got a little bit of space down on this side, not too much, but as I said earlier, most of the cables are going to be on the inside of the case. So this case is $39.95 with the no fans option. You can get this in white or black. We went with the black one because of the type of build that we're doing for it. But this is the no fan one. The one with fans are slightly more expensive. Not a lot, it's like £5 or £10 more expensive for the one with fans in. This is going to be featured in the upcoming video, so get subscribed so you don't miss that. It's coming out very soon. Quite an interesting build with an APU. But this is the case that's going to be featured in that video. And this is the Ionz KZ-30M brief overview. We hope you liked it.